Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is someone special to me. I tell her all the time, there's sometimes I'm having tough days, and I know she does, but I really kind of get re-energized seeing her posts and not her struggle, but her warrior. I call her my PD warrior, but also my redhead in disguise because we're both look like we're probably really brother and sister, but you never know these days. So just want to really welcome Melissa, and it's been such an honor getting to know you. And also, I look forward to the future for awareness, but also to find a cure.
Thank you so much for the introduction. That was so kind. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your journey to get started on today. I imagine we're going to have a lot of laughing, hopefully not a
I
lot of
hope so.
crying, but also most important, a lot of fun, but awareness. So everyone listening, we're going to talk all about Melissa, but you got to help support her, share this. And remember, we don't want anything in return. We just want you to also know that no one's alone in this fight.
And that's what's most important. That's really what pushes my heart forward. And I'm already getting teary. This is too soon. Okay, so a little bit about my journey. I am 50 years old, and I was diagnosed at age 48 with young onset Parkinson's disease. Now, my husband and I were talking and looking back, and to be truthful, I've probably had this disease for at least a decade before I was diagnosed. I mean, I see all the symptoms now looking back. And I think because of Parkinson's, everybody having different symptoms, presenting in different ways, that it can be really hard to diagnose at times. I did luck out finally getting my diagnosis because I always known there was something wrong. I had trouble walking. I had the dystonia, but I didn't have a name for it. And the funny thing is, I used to work in the medical community for a good portion of my life, in the health and wellness community. So you would think I would have heard some of this along the way, and I haven't. And I don't have any family members that I am aware of with Parkinson's. So all very new to me. Over the years, I'm surprised nobody said, "Hey, I notice your foot. You're walking a little different. What's going on? Hey, I see your toes are curled up. What's going on? You have bruises. You're falling. What's going on?" And I guess the pieces of the puzzle never got put together. I also have comorbidities, chronic migraines and diabetes, which developed alongside of the Parkinson's. We're not sure the connection or anything like that at this point. We're just working on managing my blood sugar. But with the comorbidities, I go to see my neurologist, and I walk in, and he looks at me, and he says, "Can you walk down the hall?" Sure. He's like, "I noticed you're not swinging your arms." And, they do the typical neuro test, the dun, da, 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 the chicken. I call it chicken dance. But anyway, he's like, it really looks, I mean, this just happened out of nowhere. He's like, "It really looks like you might have Parkinson's." And I was just stunned, like just shock, pure shock. And we went through some tests. I had a brain scan and then I had a nuclear brain scan. And I got a phone call a few days later while I was working from home in the middle of my workday. And they shared the news with me. And my daughter was right beside me. And it was really hard for us. My husband came up. We shared it with him because at the time, like I said, I didn't know what the prognosis looked like. And then now I know it's different for everybody. So that's how I ended up where I am today. I'm being treated today. I'm not doing your traditional physical therapy. However, I've also worked at, okay, let me rewind. Okay, here we go. So I am a national board certified health and wellness coach, as well as a certified wellness practitioner. So, like I said, I have a lot of knowledge on the backside of things. Unfortunately, work had to change for me. So that's important that I wanted to share with everybody that there are ADA accommodations. There are ways to get breaks during the day. There are ways to start your day later, depending on the company you work for. Um, I forgot where to connect my point. I apologize. I've got the Parkinson's brain,
I
typical. We get
do,
brain fog.
I
But I
do,
was saying,
yeah.
go ahead.
Do want to jump in to say how brave you are, and that's one of the things that inspires me about you because you are, again, a fighter. You're out there on social media talking about this today with me when many people might want to be private. And I think that the way you're approaching it is very important, not just for yourself, but for all the millions of people out there kind of feeling alone. And that's what I wanted to also make sure. And then wanted to talk a little bit about the ADA accommodations. We're actually working on a future book about the law and Parkinson because there's a lack
Yep.
of knowledge. And I don't want people paying 300, no offense, I'm a lawyer, but I don't want to have to pay 300 an hour just to get some type of background. So obviously it's important, but maybe afterwards, we can talk about that because I'm looking for additional writers, but people who are experts who've gone through it for Parkinson's. And now maybe we can touch a little bit about how, Parkinson's can take away an individual's career because I've interviewed now over 50 people and some have been affected greatly, even forced to retire. And I don't think
Mhm.
people out there are aware, not just of Parkinson's, but aware enough about the laws that are able to protect them. And as an attorney, I don't cover that type of law. I do more criminal, but I think it's very, very, very important that we get something in form of paper out there so people, when they have moments, can read it. But at least for now, you can touch a little bit about, I don't know if you want to get into the law behind it, but ADA and how it can help people out that work.
Yeah, I would love to, I would love to. So for me, I had a really great HR department at my company that I was at before I got laid off. And so how it worked for me was they sent over some papers to me. I looked at them, I filled out what I felt like I needed, which the first time I filled it out, I wasn't sure what I needed. Parkinson's was new to me. All I knew was that I was on a medication that I started. I was getting really sick. I couldn't work a full day. I needed flexibility. I needed more breaks. I needed to be able to get up and move. There were days with tremors that it's hard to type or do my work as I was a pain neuroscience educator coach. And even to think for that matter, you just need a couple minutes sometimes to just gather your thoughts. So, with the ADA accommodations, what that allowed me to do was bring it to both my neurologist as well as my PCP. So, I have a team, which was incredible. Unfortunately, my one doctor's retired since, but I put down what I thought I would need. Then I talked to them and we came together and brainstormed and they filled out all the paperwork for me and it went back to HR to get approved. Once it was approved, my accommodations were in place. So for me, like I was mentioning, I could start my day whenever I needed to. Like sometimes mornings are rough for me. Like today was a rough day for me getting started and I was slow to the go. Um, and then there's days where I'm okay in the morning, and I had that flexibility to be able to work as long as I didn't have a client call session because my clients always came first to me. They are in chronic pain. I understand what that's like. I want to help them. So, I was very connected to my job. I did not want to give it up. I am passionate about what I do. I want to help people. And that's what led me also down this road with George in Parkinson's and advocating. I found out what I had. I want to share my knowledge. I want somebody to know if they have that, they're going to be okay. We just have to follow, the road, and each road is going to take us to a different place because we're individuals. So my accommodations may not look like your accommodations if you had them.
Right. I appreciate.
And you can feel free to suggest whatever you think you need. Like if I needed a talk to text thing, on my computer, I could do that because the typing's hard. A stand-up desk if I needed. Standing's dangerous for me. I will share a little funny antidote. If you walk around my home, there are cracked doors everywhere because I fall into them.
Oh,
And we're like, well, why are we going to fix them right now? Because I'm just going to fall into them again. So, on the house with the cracked doors. But anyway, like I said, everybody's different, different capabilities. The prognosis can be very different going forward. Like some people advance quicker. It sounds like your mom may have, George. Is that correct?
yeah, she actually had it for 15 years, but didn't really tell us until like the seventh
Oh,
or eighth. I heard the word Parkinson's, but I didn't know it was a disease. she
Yeah.
I think she didn't want to burden the family, or she was a little
Oh, what
bit
a kind
ashamed.
soul.
And plus, we don't know if she was misdiagnosed early or diagnosed early enough. It was also new back then too, like 15 years. So,
Yeah.
at this point, we're not sure because I can't ask her, but I think it's
Right.
important to keep talking about these issues, and also everyone listening, ADA is Americans with Disabilities, and it also is a federal law, so you're protected specific individuals from discrimination at the workplace, which is very, very important. A lot of people aren't aware, and it differs for different types of disabilities. So it's important
Yes.
everyone out there. Also, every state has different laws for the state, but there is one federal law. So I won't get into a lecture because I am a professor of law, but I do recommend everyone to check your local listings. And it sounds like a movie channel now, but
No,
it's
but you
important.
really can. Like, it's got it all laid out for you. Everything's different, but also every company's different. Like, and it goes back to sizes of companies too.
One,
So,
I,
some companies may not be able to offer that. Unfortunately, it ended that I lost my job, not as a result of my disease that I'm aware of. There was a layoff. I was chosen as one of the people to be laid off, and I'm sure it may have something to do with that because I went from a really being a really high performer to kind of like slowing it down and not, taking. I've always been one to take the lead on things.
right.
I like to get things done. So it is what it is. I am working to see what I can do part time. Probably, I don't think I can handle full time right at this moment unless it's super flexible. But I encourage everybody to like George said, look at the website, grab those laws, talk to your doctor, talk to people, talk to other groups. TikTok has an amazing community of Parkinson's warriors. I have met the nicest people that I've met in my life. They check up on me. I check up on them. We don't know each other than TikTok. And I think that's pretty incredible and a great way to continue our advocacy, to share the knowledge. And, I have friends that don't have it that are on there, and they get to know what my life is like sometimes. You'll see me in bed talking to you, you'll see me without makeup. Maybe I'll be in a wig for fun. I mean, here I am to entertain you. But, the key point is let's get together and find a cure for this.
Thanks. And as you say that, I'm going to actually share your TikTok, and maybe you could talk about how, well, first, so this is your Instagram, but what brought you into the world? I don't know how long you've been doing social media. We only met recently, but I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what kind of, compelled you to get into the world of social media and be open and honest. One of my heroes is Michael J. Fox, because
Yes.
obviously you know him well, everyone does, but he could have led a private life. He didn't have to do what he's done. Instead, he's fought back tremendously, raising over $2 billion, not million, for search for a cure. Unfortunately, he's not doing well, but he's still,
Mhm.
we still fight on his behalf. As an honor
Absolutely.
to meet him, but maybe you could talk about how long have you been on social media, and what made you kind of jump into the forefront now? Because I see you all the time, which I love.
Thank you. I got on social media starting with Facebook, and that was back in 2009. And I didn't even sign myself up, somebody else did,
Mhm.
because I wanted to connect with other people that I known throughout my life. And then it really just kind of turned into advocacy, really, for the most part, and also sharing my family and my daughter, who's a competitive dancer. But anyway, um, then I went to Instagram. I liked the photos, the layouts, the simplicity of it. You can get like a quote across, maybe whatever it is across, and share just a little blurb. And then from there, I went to TikTok, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to start sharing my story. People need to know what's going on so they can be aware and hopefully get some treatment earlier. Because the earlier you get it, the better off typically you'll be, for the most part, from what I understand. I'm not an expert. I'm still learning very much as I go. And it all started with my migraines, my chronic migraines. So I was doing a lot of that on social media. Most of it I took down because I felt like it was my only identity at the time. And I wanted to be multifaceted, which I am as a person. I have a lot of interests, a lot of things I like to do, a lot of things I like to advocate for. I'm very much into working with people, for people, to help people. So social media is an outlet for me, one, to keep from taking life too seriously sometimes. And then sometimes taking it too seriously and letting people in and being vulnerable and allowing them to see the different sides of what it feels like to live day to day with a disease that you don't know what you're going to feel like the second you wake up. I have driven my daughter to dance. I've gotten stuck there because my body had internal tremors. I'm not sure if you guys are all familiar with that. It's almost like your body's vibrating from the inside. Sometimes you can see it on the outside, sometimes you can't. And I had to call for a ride. So, like, this awareness that I'm sharing with everybody allows them then to share with their friends and family, but also support me at the same time and get rid of misconceptions, because there's also a lot of misconceptions around the disease because, there's not a lot known about it, which is just blows my mind. And George has really taken the lead on this. And when I came across him, I was thrilled. We need somebody like George, and we're going to all be warriors right beside him on the front lines and share our stories and know that you're not alone. That was another reason for social media, feeling a sense of community. My followers have significantly grown because I am connecting with fellow Parkinson's warriors. And sometimes I find myself crying at some stories because they're so relatable. And then there's times where you just want to cheer people on because things are going well. Maybe they walked a mile, maybe they did something really exciting that they couldn't do before. I do want to share that I may not look sick. That's a big thing. Most of us don't look sick. So I've been mistaken for being drunk. I don't drink. Maybe a glass of wine once in a while, but not often. I don't get drunk. I mean, I'm 50 years old. I have a kid. I have a husband. I have a life. So that was hurtful. It's like the misconceptions were hurtful. They're like, look at that drunk lady. And I'm like, actually, I have Parkinson's. Let me tell you about it.
Mhm.
So I also use a walker when I need it. I don't need it, fortunately, every day, thank goodness. But when I go to dance conventions or like Target, for example, or any place that's pretty large, over a few hundred feet of walking, I bring my walker because I lose my balance very easy. And, I want people to know it's okay to have a walker. It's fine. I love my walker.
I have one. I have one also.
See, we're Walker. We're not only
Parker.
unrelated brother and sister, but we're also Wonder Twins.
Yeah. I want to thank you for sharing that. You actually brought up one important point that a lot of people don't even talk about: internal tremors. My mother actually had the exact same thing, which made her even more upset and frustrated because she
Yep.
felt people didn't believe her. And that was another world of chaos. So obviously I believed her, but
Mm.
she did gain the external toward the later in her life, but she definitely had more of the internal, the dystonia with the curling toes, and
Yes, it's
also
so painful.
and
So painful.
I feel like it sounds sad, but at times I felt like in policing, and I was before an advocate for Parkinson's awareness. I was a victims' rights advocate. I'm a police
Mhm.
officer and a lawyer, and my PhD is in victimology. But
Oh,
I,
wow, that's
I
fascinating.
always fought for victims who lost a
Yeah,
loved one due to crime, and they thought of the family members because they're forgotten, unfortunately, as secondary victims. And I felt like a
yeah.
secondary Parkinson's kind of person because I was holding my mother's hand, arm in arm for the whole time, and it was just something that's why we do this, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what she did or our family. But I also want everyone out there to please go to gofundme.com/f/support. You'll see, I'll add this too to the notes, but to support Melissa because it's very important. I hope we could get her $1 million, but I,
That's
I
too
don't.
generous. I'll
We
take what
don't
I need and that's it, and share the rest with everybody.
we don't accept anything together for Sharon on purpose. So if someone sends $1, I send it back, which costs me $2. So,
Oh my goodness.
but what I do want is someday my dream is to really help everyone not have to ever pay for medicine. So I don't think anyone should have to. I don't know what the national plan to end Parkinson's will do. It has passed, but there's a lot more work to be done to implement it. But for now, everyone, please again, try to support Melissa at GoFundMe, or you can also follow her TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and so many others. So I wanted to thank you for that. Now we
Thank
go,
you.
I
I
need
did
to
wanna mention one thing. You
please,
mentioned holding your mother's arm. I, Parkinson's is a family disease. It is. Everybody
community,
in the family is involved. My
community.
husband holds my arm, and my daughter holds my arm, and I call it the chicken wing.
Mhm.
So, you kinda put your arm up. I don't know if you guys could see like that. And I've got my daughter's dance friends trained for competition season. Everybody, I'm like, "I need a chicken wing," and they'll chicken wing me, and we will get to where we need to go safely. So, I
Also,
just wanted to share that.
I
I mean,
appreciate it. And also
yeah,
it affects the community. I always say, I mean, there might be approximately 1 million people in the US, 10 million globally, but that's like 100 million families and community that are also affected by the disease. And you also brought up, I mean, we could talk for 20 hours, no one will want to hear it, but you mentioned something too about misconceptions, how it used to be elderly man disease. And I've been working hard on these podcasts to really feature females and young onset females because I want the word to be out there. I did one podcast which was pretty incredible, and this one's joining it, obviously. But she actually had a baby during Parkinson's, and I thought that was a topic that I've never even heard of before, which is something that's not rare. But you don't even think of that
mhm,
because you have to be careful of medications that you take while you're pregnant and all this stuff. So it's
you
just I
do.
love being able to have this opportunity to speak with you and so many people out there. It just means the world to me. So I wanted to shift now to more about you. This is the heartbreaking part. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So can you listen? And you're allowed to say I pass. You're not under the arrest here. You have no right to remain silent. You know, you can't afford an attorney. It's okay. I'll help. Anyway,
Awesome.
can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Creative, nurturing, and quirky.
Love it. Uh, Actually, can you talk about the first sign? I know you mentioned a few, but maybe the first day. I know it might be sometimes it's hard to talk about, but because I know my mother, towards she was independent, she was divorced but lived alone, and she loved it. And but towards the seventh year, her left arm became very stiff, so she started to have trouble eating, and that's when it really kind of affected her independence. But I don't know if you recall, I know Michael J. Fox, he had one finger started to shake in the movie he released 2 years ago with
Mhm.
on Apple TV. Was there one moment that you kind of, I know it took you time because you weren't sure, but that you can recall the first sign? If not,
Absolutely, and yes, you're right, it's gonna get emotional.
maybe I shouldn't have asked that one.
No, I
Um,
would like to share because I think it's important for people to know and look out for things like this. I was working in home healthcare as an HR person, and the first thing I know I was first thought it was, different medications I'd been on for my other illnesses, right? So what happened was I would start to shake, like the internal tremors. I had trouble writing, and I was like, "Why can't I write?" So I was like, "It's the Ambien. It's gotta be the Ambien. I'm cutting out the Ambien." Cut out the Ambien, right? Still trouble writing. My handwriting was really small. It was really rough and rigid. I had a little tremor in my left hand, which I still have on occasion. It comes and goes. So I had that going on. And then at work one day, I just could not function. Like I was in my office trying to do my paperwork and go over this stuff. And I went out and to the nurses. Luckily, I have nurses there, and they, walked me to a couch, got me comfortable, called my husband. I went home. So there were signs and symptoms all along, but that was when I really knew there was something. And Parkinson's creeped a little bit in the back of my head, but because I didn't have any knowledge about it, and this is why this is so important, I didn't know what it was. Like, I was told maybe it's MS. I mean, and there are those comorbidities. People have more than one disease. I thought they told me at one time it was something else. So it's been really scary because you're sitting here in an office by yourself. You see your body deteriorating and you don't know why. You don't know what to do. You're blaming yourself. You're like, did I take the wrong medicine? Am I on the wrong combination? Did I not look up the side effects? Did I not ask my doctor enough questions? So I blame myself a little bit, I would say. Now, if you ask my husband about it, he said that he had a good idea from for a long time. He never said it to me, and I think because he didn't wanna upset me, and he wasn't sure, obviously. But just I felt so alone because I did not know what's wrong with me, and for me personally, the unknown is scarier than the known. Because the known you can process, you
Right.
can plan, you can get help. But when you don't know, it's just terrifying. Like, why am I falling? Why can't I write anymore? Why am I shaking? Like, why do I look like I'm drunk every time I walk? Because the dystonia.
Mm.
Um, it was hard. It was really hard, and, I had the greatest owner of the company. He, like, looked after me. He also sent me a book, by the way, but we're not gonna talk about that because we're here for our son's journey. Um,
We're here for Melissa's journey.
my journey, right? But the point being is it can be a very lonely disease at first when you don't know what you're dealing with and you have all these symptoms, and it's scary. It is really scary.
Right, well,
And
at
then
least,
you go to the doctor and they're not sure what's wrong with
right.
you. And, when you're younger, they don't go to Parkinson's right away.
Sounds like you wrote my book because it sounds like literally identical to a lot of. I mean, I felt as a caregiver felt alone, and my mother felt really alone. And
Yeah,
we went to about 15 real movement disorder specialists and board certified. And one of them, I pulled in a room and said, "Is my mother going to be with me long?" Because they told us that you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it. So, and my mother was
yeah,
she was only 69, no medical issues. But it does go back to what you were mentioning. I do wonder the last 4 years since we had AIDS kind of watching over her, they kept a journal, but did they do the medicine at the right time? Did they give the right amount? And there's so much still curious.
so many questions.
Yeah. I appreciate your honesty. Here's a tough one. You ready?
Yeah, throw it at me.
Tried to get a soundboard. I say this every show. I'm probably tired of it, but I wanted a drum roll machine, but it didn't work. Yeah, that's
There you
perfect.
go.
We didn't plan that either, everyone. What
I'm
is
just a comedian.
I love it. We have to have you come on as guest host sometime for some other show.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
an awesome opportunity. I
We'll
would
have,
love it. I can talk all day.
now, what is one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with awareness so far? I know, again, can you tell me a year or two that how many years have you been doing social media?
Like I said, I've been on social media since 2009, but my advocacy originally started with chronic migraines and sharing with that.
Wonder why we didn't
And
meet.
then I kinda took a
Um,
step back because I really just needed to find my identity, myself again, and heal. Um, Obviously, I still have chronic migraines, but I'm in a much better place, a great place. And then I was just doing social media, like just fun, silly stuff, sharing with my family all over the United States, sharing with friends of mine in other countries. And then I got hit with the Parkinson's, Parkinson's. And it just felt organic to share. I don't know. My husband's the complete opposite. You will never see him on social media. You'll never see his face. He's a ghost. He's an enigma.
That's actually the next question, which you already answered, but we'll answer it again. Who helps you?
Okay.
I always like to bring out the people behind the scenes that really deserve a little credit and are not known. And so, who helps you in times of struggle? I was a caregiver. Maybe what tips would you have to caregivers who might be listening?
That's a great question. So I want to shout out my husband first and foremost, Henry Burgess. He is my lifeline. He will get up in the middle of the night for me. Because usually I don't sleep. That's a part of Parkinson's. Team no sleep.
Actually,
That's me.
I was at a sleep doctor yesterday for 2 hours.
Maybe I should go to that. I don't know.
No
But
offense to him. He didn't really tell me much help. I mean,
no, so, he really just makes sure I'm okay. He makes sure I'm not make sure I'm in a three-story townhome right now. We would love to sell it and get a one-story home, but the market, we're not gonna get into all the details, but, the market stinks right now. You can sell, get good money, but then you can't afford to buy anything. So maybe I'll live in a little cabin or a tiny home. I don't know. No, but seriously speaking, I do have a three-story townhome. He makes sure I get up and down the stairs okay. That him and my daughter Haley Burgess, she is only 12 years old. She has been my lifeline. That child does so much. She dances 5 days a week. She's a straight A student. She competes with dance, and she cares for me. She cooks food for me when I can't. She, brings me stuff. She, loves on me when I'm crying. It's like and then there's my parents who are much older. I'm kind of in the sandwich generation, as you call it. You take care of your parents, you take care of your kids. We're kind of all taking care of each other because my parents are much older. My mom has a lot of illness.
Mhm.
And so, but they help me. They help me a lot. My mother-in-law, my husband's mother helps me. And then I have a few friends. My bestest friend has multiple sclerosis. So what we do when we get together, and this is kind of cute, we go to her house typically because she's got a huge house with all the comforts and everything you could ever want. She'll set up a chair for me, like a reclining couch, a heating pad. She'll have a pillow, a blanket, a water, a glass of wine, whatever the case may be.
You know, I might have to
And
visit. I might have to visit.
yeah, you
Okay.
come on over.
Thanks.
I'll tell her you're coming. But it's nice to have a partner in crime, if you will. She's a great support. We talk all through the night because we don't sleep. And, a lot of our symptoms are very similar. A lot of our struggles are very similar. Um, so that is really my A1 team. And then the dance moms. I do have to give them a big shout out. There's too many to mention individually, but I call them my girl gang. And they make sure when I take my daughter and travel on competitions, some of them will even drive me because driving long distance sometimes can be unpredictable and scary if you get the tremors or whatever happens. And they make sure my daughter gets what she needs. Like there's been a time where I had to stay in bed and they took my daughter to dinner because my body was just like, no. Like you come to like a fail stop, like when your body's done and you have to listen because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in the recovery zone forever.
Right.
So I really do have just a ginormous support from people both with chronic illnesses in my family and people and friends and people without. And without them, I could not do this. I think I would probably be very depressed. I probably wouldn't be social. Um, I would probably just hide out in my room, to be quite honest. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am an introvert, so I'm very comfortable alone. I'm an extroverted introvert, but you know, I feel loved, I feel supported, I feel cared for, and I feel like I have a lifeline if I need one. And that's a result of me sharing publicly my battle,
Thanks. And
my
we send our
my
love,
fight.
love
I'm
and
sorry.
we send our love and support to your husband and to the family too. We just never want them to be forgotten either.
No, they make it happen. They're like the behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz,
That's what I
making
said.
everything happen.
Yep.
That's what they're doing for me. And
Thanks.
they make me look great. They make me look organized. They make me look put together. On days where I'm like, I don't know if I'm coming or going, but here I am. And they make me want to continue to show up each and every day.
Thank you. And if you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it?
Oh, wow. Um,
I can
gosh, George, that's a hard one.
sorry.
It could be named any number of things and it would be appropriate.
They have the red hair in it. The red.
Maybe the quirky redhead, I don't know, ginger snap, I don't
Yeah.
know.
You can get back to me
Ginger
on
snap,
that.
I don't know.
And
I've got nothing for you on that one. I'm gonna call Parkinson's brain. Ding.
thank you. If you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
Keep fighting. Keep fighting and listen to your body. It's okay to cancel plans. It's okay to say you can't do something if you can't do something. There might be an accommodation for that. You know, for example, I want to share very quickly. I was a dancer when I was younger, and it was something I really loved. And for me, I just started dancing again. Now I've got accommodations. I'm doing dancing one on one right now with the instructor, and she's really great with the biomechanics. Like she recognizes what's going on with my body, which foot I'm favoring. So I'm doing hip hop and jazz. Very
Oh,
exciting.
I'll have to do a podcast live from while you're dancing. I'm not
Oh, please no, not yet. Wait till I
kidding.
get good.
That's the next thing. I like to start doing some shows literally right from events. That's my next thing.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
But so they said I could even use my walker. So they're like, the goal is for me to get into the parents class after I go one-on-one and feel comfortable and safe and secure. And then I'll be in a class. So I get to be in a dance recital. And they said, if you need your walker in that dance recital, we will choreograph around your walker. So to have, like I said, the community I have is just so amazing. I have no words. I'm very excited about my friends and family that help me.
I've been lucky enough to meet David Leventhal. He'll be on the show too from Dance with PD. And also we support the Boca Ballet. And it's once a year they have a Parkinson's event with all individuals with Parkinson's dance with the cute little ballerinas. And they put a whole show together. You'll see it online next year, but
I love that so much.
amazing.
Goals.
Well, I have one final area. Is there any areas you kind of want to talk about we missed, and how could everybody reach you?
I can be reached via my email, which is lissaaburgess@gmail.com, or through any of my social media. I will respond. If it's not that day, it will be the next day. Because, with Parkinson's, sometimes you have days where you're just like, I can't. I just can't. But I will always respond. It just may take me a moment. And then sometimes I'm right there on my phone, like,
Mhm.
so yeah, I would love for anybody to reach out. I love meeting new people, even though I'm an introvert.
Mhm.
Um, I want to build our community. I want to share knowledge, and I also want to learn about others' experience because I'm fascinated about how this disease comes about, progresses, um, shows up, like for me, like we were talking about, it showed up like with me looking like I'm drunk walking and things like that. Somebody else might have a different situation.
Mhm.
One thing I did, do we have time to bring up one last
Of
thing?
course, yes, just for you, anytime.
Okay. So you mentioned early on in our conversation medications, and I wanted to take a moment to talk about that.
Sure.
I think it's a big problem here. Obviously, we know the healthcare system is broken. There's no perfect answer. You might see a cat in a minute.
I
Excuse
have
me.
to. That's okay. That's
That is Lola.
it's a
No, no,
surprise.
that's
The
Bijou. That's
David
Bijou.
Letterman, David Letterman, or these talk shows have surprise guests. So there's our surprise guest.
Yes, this is Bijou. I have 4 cats, so you
Oh,
could see any number of cats just coming across in their parade. But the system is broken. We all know that. There's no perfect fix. There never will be. We just do the best we can. But my point being is, when I lost my job, I recently lost my health insurance. I went to the pharmacy to get my shot for my diabetes because I have diabetes as well. And it was between $1,200, $1,400. So I couldn't get it. I don't have that sitting around. I'm not working. I can't right now. So that was disappointing. Another situation, I saw Beachy. I'm sure you're familiar with him. You've seen
he's
him
been
on
on the
TikTok.
show. Yeah, he's been on.
Yeah. And he had trouble with shortage of medication, which is also something here in the States that we're dealing with. And the prices are astronomical. I also wanted to bring up the point where they offered Cobra, which was wonderful, a great benefit, but that's $2,400 a month. So, I mean, you're kind of damned if you do, excuse my language, damned if you don't. And how can we need to find a way to get prescription assistance. I think that's important because that's the one thing that keeps our symptoms away, that allows us to live our lives. There is no cure. There is help, there is medication, there's treatment, there's no cure. So that medication is so important to each and every one of us, whether it is for a comorbidity, because those affect your other diseases. Like they're synergistic, like they're all bonded. So I went to go fill out a form that says, hey, if you fill this out, you can get your medication for $25 each month. I was like, perfect, I will do that. Sent my husband up to the CVS I'm not going to get into that one. If you
Mhm.
want to look at a TikTok about it, you can. However,
Never
he
know
went up
mine.
there and they said, well, that card is only for people with insurance. So again, which is fine. I think that's great that they're offered an opportunity to pay less for a copay. But hi, I don't have insurance. Hello. Filled out the form. I was approved. And then my husband got to the pharmacy and I couldn't get a medication. So that's a big problem that we're having now. And, also Parkinson's is fairly new in regards to research and things like that. And there aren't a ton of medications at the moment that I'm aware of. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I tend to do a lot of research. If I'm not feeding my brain,
Mhm.
I can't. I need to feed my brain at all times. So I'm always trying to learn something new. I just wanted to bring up that key point for two reasons. One, to see what we can all do as a collective community with prescription medications. And then also just sharing the fact of what I went through and that could happen, where it's too expensive. And it happens to many people, even with other diseases as well.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it, and I think we could have a whole show on cost of Parkinson's because we spent $12,000 a month just to have aides watch over my mother because we didn't
Yes,
we didn't want her to fall. But that was a complete disaster and a whole chapter I wrote about. So for another time.
I'm looking
But
forward to listening to your audiobook. I'm going to put my headphones on later today.
I appreciate it. I just want to thank you for your time, your friendship, and remember, we're always fighting right by your side. I have a little message for you and everyone listening. We always end the show with this, but we love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Melissa, will advocate for you, and together I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always kind of joke and say I'm just getting started because every time I put on social media in a day, and I come across a profile or some kind of talk like you had, kind of inspires me and like almost like a punch in the face to wake up and whatever I'm going through, got to put it to the side because we need a cure for Parkinson's. That's most important. And I don't want anyone to ever think that they're alone. So I just again want to thank you for your time. And I have a feeling this is to be continued and not the end, because until we find a cure, we have to continue this conversation. So thank you again.
Thank you, George. It has been life changing to have met you and to be able to advocate beside you. Seriously, like the work, I'm in awe of all that you do. And I want to thank you for getting this conversation started in the community, sharing your story with your mom. So important. Gosh, I feel like I know her. I feel like I know her. I wish I did. And that's why we have got to continue the fight and be warriors and pick each other up on days when we're not feeling the fight. And we'll all get there. We'll do it together.
I
Thank you,
appreciate.
George, for having me. I feel so fortunate to be able to talk to you like face to face,
Yeah.
ginger to ginger.
I love it.
Um, my
We need
brother from another mother.
we need t-shirts next time.
Oh, well, thank you so much, though.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed this, and I hope I have another opportunity to chat with you and everybody else.
definitely. Well, thanks again, Melissa, and thank you everyone for listening. Please support her. Go to her GoFundMe and follow her on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram because you'll definitely bring you a smile, maybe a few tears, but it's all for a good reason, and we're gonna be right there by your side. So thanks again, everyone. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. This does not end here because we have many, many more guests to come, but conversation has to continue and I won't ever stop till we find a cure for Parkinson's disease. So thank you all again.
Bye. Thank you.